You're watching Oilers Nation every day with Tyler Yaremchuk. Your one-stop shop for all things Oilers.
I'll tell you what, it doesn't feel like a cup year. Let's get into it with the lead.
That's right.
I can already hear Liam talking, so might as well bring him in. Welcome into Oilers Nation every day, live from the Sports Closet studio. Check them out online, sportscloset.ca. Shows a presentation of Bet365. Download the app today. Use the promo code NATION. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Liam, there weren't supposed to be losing streaks like this year, man. This wasn't supposed to happen. This wasn't the plan. It was supposed to be start to finish, dominate the whole season, win the President's Trophy. What's going on?
It's all part of the script. The NHL has scripted this up. The Oilers go on a bad February run and then take it all away, and they'd never lose again from this point on. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, hey, last year they won 16 in a row or 17, however many it was. Do I think that's going to happen again? No. Right now, this team just seems broken, man. It's honestly really, really disheartening to see the effort that they've been putting forth. Oh, Oilers claim Dermott. Let's go.
The Oilers have reclaimed Travis Dermott.
Scratch the whole start. Aaron, fire it up again. It's a cup year. Travis Dermott's back.
What the heck? This is such a weird thing to do. Travis Dermott, welcome back, buddy. We didn't play you when you were here, but we'll get you going again and see what happens.
So I believe they can send him right down, can't they? Someone might need to clarify that for us. But I guess it would depend on if they were the only team to claim him, right?
Yes, I think that's how it would work. Or maybe that's just based off, is it not a win? Oh, no, because the last time he went through would have been on Edmonton, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
to Minnesota. Minnesota sent him back. Yeah, that makes sense. Also, former Oiler for about 20 minutes, Matt Nieto is also back on waivers.
That's a great pull. That is a great joke you just laid right there. Only real ones know that. Travis Dermott, welcome back. We missed you. You're probably going to Bakersfield and will play absolutely zero role in this team getting to the playoffs or playing in the playoffs. So there we go. Let's, we don't need to spend any time on Travis Dermott, although you seem to be feverishly typing away at something.
I just made a tweet. Cup year. And it was just me quote tweeting Frank Seravalli in the Oilers. Claim Travis Dermott.
Oh, man. Let's start the show with a super chat. Chemo is in $6.99. Love you, Ben. Oilers play better when it's for Ben. All our super chats go towards the Ben Stelter Foundation. Love the work that they do. Liam, didn't love what I saw from the Edmonton Oilers last night. So let's talk about that a little bit. Get into it with our scoring summary. Our scoring summary is brought to you by Service Credit Union. The Service Big Share Contest is back and better than ever. It's in full swing. It's your chance to win $1 million just by saving money. Anyone can enter by becoming a member and saving with Service. Every $500 saved gives you 5 entries into the Service Big Share Contest. Contest ends April 30th, 2025. Skill test required. For rules, visit service.ca/win. And Liam, a very, very similar script for the Edmonton Oilers last night. They come out of the gates. They score first. Leon Draisaitl is inevitable. His 43rd of the year. This dude could very easily get to 50 goals by, the 65, 70 game mark? Like, it's happening. It's been an unreal year. I love that Leon's adapted, or brought back, I should say, this shoot-first mentality, and everything's going in for the guy. So to see Draisaitl score, to see him get nice and fired up, you're sitting here going, all right, 12 minutes in, Oilers are playing pretty well. Power play came through with a big one. Giddy up. This is going to be our night.
Yeah, and I think they actually did okay. The first 10 minutes, is like the first half of this first period was pretty decent, I thought, from them. They seemed calm, which I thought was a big change from the previous 2 games, to say the least, as a collective. But, yeah, coming out again, Evan Bouchard, ironically, after the way the game went, gets an assist on this goal and is involved in the only goal of the game. But, yeah, Leon Draisaitl, he might score 50 by the time the Oilers get... What happens first? He gets 50, the Oilers win another game.
Well, I would hope those two things are mutually exclusive, and the Oilers win 4 in a row, and Draisaitl has 7 goals, and he just gets to 50. But it's weird because early in the season, Liam, it was their starts that were killing them, right? Like, they could not come out of the gates hot at all. Even their little lull back in whenever it was, I'm totally forgetting the date, was in January. It was like, man, every game they come out of the gates looking like shit. Right now, they're starting games like okay. Like against Washington, the first 10 minutes were the best 10 minutes of the game, and you could probably say the same thing against Tampa Bay. So again, they start well, and then it just totally effing spirals from there. Michael Esimont, 13-11 mark, ties this thing up at 1. Kasperi Kapanen, if you're a bottom 6 player, you do shit like that. You sit in the press box next game. That's at the way this team is playing and the way these mistakes are happening. That's, to me, that's what I'm doing if I'm Chris Knobloch. You need to get guys paying way more attention to the little things, way more attention to detail. Kasperi Kapanen can sit next game because, again, you can't turn over that puck and it changed the game.
I don't even think he should have played this game, to be honest. With Jeff Skinner sat in the box, in the stands, wherever he was. Like, Kapanen was on the ice for 3 goals against last game against Washington, and then to come out and, like, I always respect it when you're, like, clearly trying to make a play, but, like, in that moment, like, you just scored. Like, you don't need to kind of do that stuff, right? Just chip it over. Just get it a bit deep. Go forecheck hard. Like, make the play simple for yourself. Your team's struggling overall to create any kind of offense and also to keep the puck out of their own net. So, for me, this is just a terrible, unnecessary play from Kapanen. What was this, like a minute and a half after the Oilers scored? The fourth line goes out there and gets a goal against. Like, not what... This can't be the standard. And it's obviously not the standard, but it's quickly becoming what they're just doing all the time.
Yeah, again, just ridiculous, man. So it's 1-1. To Stuart Skinner's credit, that was the calmest and best he's looked in a period in, I think, 4 to 6 weeks, Liam. Like, he was solid. He made a couple of big saves on Brandon Hagel. He was stopping the ones he was supposed to, and he gets beat on that one by Esimont, and I'm not going to blame him all that much for that because, I mean, almost like what we talked about Dubnyk earlier in the week, it's like, man, it's unpredictable in front of him right now. Like that play just should have never happened. So Skinner was good in the first period. And again, this is probably an indictment on Skinner and not a positive, but like when you play as well as he did in the first 20, you can't give up the goal that he did to start the period. And we'll have a conversation here about Bouchard as well. But again, Ekholm too, like you had 3 whacks at it. You're going up against, who is that? Zemgus Girgensons? Like, good Lord. And I think Bouchard plays this well off the jump. And honestly, like, people were in my mentions all over Bouch on this one. The expectation that your goalie's going to stop a relatively slow-moving wraparound is not crazy, and you want to cut him off from going to the outside. Like, again, he keeps him below the goal line, covers for Ekholm, who's gotten beat, and you're expecting Stuart Skinner to make that save. Like, that I'm not even that mad at Evan Bouchard on that. It feels like, again, he's the whipping boy. Everyone loves to be like, oh, he's standing there with his hands on his hips, but like, he plays this well. Ekholm gets beat. You have a guy going wide. Keep him low. What did Stuart Skinner think Hagel was gonna do? Like, the fact it's honestly mind-boggling to just ISO in on Skinner on this one.
I think, obviously Skinner needs to make that save, like coming across. It's a fairly predictable play. I think I would have liked to have seen a bit more from Bouchard, just like right at the end of it there. Like, just kind of meet him at the post, like play a little physical. Like, that's the part I would have, but like I also understand the angle of Bouch being like, my goal is going to make this save, or like Hagel's going to do something special to beat him. But yeah, it just looks nonchalant from Bouch, obviously, but that's just kind of what he is. I would have liked to have seen, again, the physicality. Like, you're 28 seconds into a period. Like, you should have some juice in you there. But yeah, Skinner, after a promising first, comes out and allows a stinker in there. But again, Ekholm too, you're right. Like, you can't really allow that to get by you there either.
Yeah, and Aiden says the Sportsnet intermission even said it was on Bouch as well. Okay, the guy on the Sportsnet intermission also said Bouchard needs to force him low, while the clip clearly shows Bouchard forcing him low. So, I don't know. Ekholm saves Bouch a lot. It would be nice to have Bouch save him in return. If you've been happy with Matthias Ekholm this season, you're not watching the same hockey games I've been. Bouch isn't physical. Sure, there's no urgency in anything Bouch does. Sure, like, all fair criticisms, but the idea that everyone was just sitting there pointing at number 2 going, his fault. How about Matthias Ekholm makes a better play at the line? He's looked slow the last 3 games now. And yeah, Gord, Stu looked like a men's league goalie on that one. You need to move laterally. That's ridiculous. Someone says you call that low. It's below the fucking goal line, man. What are you talking about? How much lower do you want Evan Bouchard to force him? And also, it's not his side of the ice. He's only over there and isn't on his side of the ice because Matthias Ekholm gets beat. Like, man, whatever, take Hagel into the back wall. That's not his side of the ice. If anything, that is what Bouchard is trying to do here. It's like, okay, Stu Skinner has to stop the rebound. Bouch is going to stay with his guy. Whatever. Okay, I'm moving on from this one. It's a standard save. It has to be made. Don't give a shit what Bouchard does. There's other guys on the ice that you can criticize for that goal. The Oilers go down 3-1 because Ryan Nugent-Hopkins takes a high sticking penalty. They're down 5-on-3. Shot goes off Matthias Janmarkin in. Again, these are the kinds of goals, almost like the Esamont goal, where in isolation, they're not that bad. And then you just sit there and look at everything else that went on in the game. And it's like, of course, right? Hagel scores that goal. It's a weak one. If that Hagel goal doesn't go in, I don't even care about this Hedman goal because it's like, yeah, you're down 5-on-3, whatever. A goal goes off a PK or sticking in. That's going to happen sometimes. So no real issues there. You're down 3-1. You should have only been down 2-1, or if Kapanen doesn't turn it over, this should be the tying goal. Like, it's, again, death by 1,000 cuts here. Third period, Oilers have absolutely zero push whatsoever, show basically no interest in wanting to get back into this hockey game, and then eventually Nick Paul makes it 4-1 with his 18th on the season, and this one was over. Again, at this point, you're thinking like, hey, maybe the Oilers come into the third with a big push or whatever, and they just get beat really bad off the rush. Nuge can't tie up his guy. Ekholm can't get a piece of the pass coming across. Whoever pinched. Like, we can run back the clip again here, but like, they're, again, three guys all down low here. And then Darnell Nurse, you have three of your teammates in front of you all on the goal line. Should they all have been on the goal line? No, very dumb. Need a high guy. But if you're Darnell Nurse and you look and you see three white sweaters in front of you, what in the world are you thinking, being like, you know what I should do? Jump up and pinch here, do a little 50-50 gamble. Like, again, the decisions this team is making, dumb. And there's no urgency to come back from any of their mistakes. And you can talk about, when Stuart Skinner makes a bad, or doesn't give up, or gives up a bad goal, that deflates the team. I don't care. Show some fight. You're professionals. Remember the days when this team's offense used to just come out of the gates and fucking save them for a game or two? Where did that go?
It's been gone for feels like forever. It's there's a lot of things of this team right now where it's just like they're not helping each other out, which I think living with mistakes is one thing of like, okay, you cause a turnover, like let's just say example, the Kasperi Kapanen one is like, okay, you made a bad turnover, but like on that one with Nurse, for example, it's like you can read that situation and kind of see what you need to do. Like, you're not taking on a guy, you're just choosing to step up and expose, I think it was Ekholm, wasn't it? And like your goaltender is like, it's just very unnecessary plays, and it seems to be happening all the time. Like they're getting beat on the rush and in transitions every game that since they've gone back. Like, it's very alarming. I thought Knobloch's post-game comment last night calling the team fragile was honestly scary. Like, I'm struggling, and I know we got a lot of hockey left still. Like, we've not even passed the trade deadline yet, but like, it's hard to sit here and think this team can go and win a Stanley Cup. I just look at this lineup and it's like, okay, there's still a lot of holes, and like we can sit here and talk about the goaltending, but again, the Oilers scored one goal yesterday, and what was their second best chance? Probably Savoy in the third period, where you get a crazy bounce off the boards and it falls to him a bit awkwardly, and he's not able to get hold of it. Like, how is your 19-year-old, 20-year-old rookie the one who is making those chances with the other players you have out there? Like, the offense on this team is just completely dried up all of a sudden.
Yeah. That ties. Okay, they lose 4-1. Let's park it. I want to get to my big take, Liam. It's brought to you by Tim Hortons. Canada, your favorite contest is back. Roll Up to Win is back at Tim Hortons, and that means you could win millions of amazing prizes with just the swipe of your thumb. Imagine turning your routine Tim's run into an unforgettable vacation with Sell-Off Vacations, a $1,000 Rakuten cash prize, or an all-new, all-electric 2025 Volkswagen ID Buzz. Even the simple joy of winning a free coffee or donut can make anyone's day. You only have till March 23rd. So get rolling, Liam. Get rolling. I know you've been. You got the app.
I went today. I got a coffee. I won a coffee, I should say. I didn't get one. I won a coffee.
All right. We should keep a running tally on how Liam's doing on his roll up to win.
Hopefully it's an endless streak. Do you know, it's really something when you win a coffee off your free coffee. That's when you know you're having a good day.
They should let you roll it over. It should be 2 coffees. Anyways, rules apply. Canada only. No purchase necessary. Visit the Tim's app for more details. So far this season, Liam, through 58 games, the Oilers have hit the 5-goal mark in a hockey game 10 times. They've scored 4 or more goals 26 times out of 58 games. That is, pretty well below 50% of the games where they're not getting to 4 goals. And yes, you should be able to win some games by scoring 3, but this is kind of my whole argument is there aren't games where their offense is bailing them out. And I know, again, the defense isn't bailing them out and the goaltending's not bailing them out either, but this team's bread and butter is supposed to be their offensive attack and how dangerous they can be offensively. How many teams can run a group of 4 centers like McDavid, Draisaitl, Nuge, and Adam Henrique, right? Like, how many teams have a guy like Corey Perry who's going to have a 15, 16 goal season playing on absolutely nothing but their fourth line? I shouldn't say absolutely nothing, but playing the majority of his time on the fourth line. So anyways, I went and looked, Liam. Last season at the 58 game mark, the Oilers had 5 or more goals in a game 13 times. So 3 more times than this year just by the 58 game mark, and 4 or more goals 30 times. So 4 more times than this season. So when you sit there and look at that, you might say it's only 4 games out of 58, but still, that's the difference between 4 wins and 8 standings points and all of that, right? Like, this offense is not bailing them out the way it used to. And not only that, they'd only been shut out twice at the 58 game mark this season. They've been shut out 4 times already this season. Twice as many times they've been held to 0 goals. Like, this offense being as quiet as it is it's stunning, man. And that's the part that's concerning to me. Like, can they find a way to turn on the Jets at some point here and have an offense that's number 1 in the NHL? Like, I do still think there's maybe a little bit of an argument that they're a touch unlucky when you look at the last sort of 4 to 6 weeks as a whole. But these last 3 games, they've shown nothing. How many shifts have there been where you're like, okay, they just had, I shouldn't say shifts. How many runs have there been when it's been 3 or 4 shifts where you're like, holy shit, they look like a miles better hockey team than the opponent? Like, it's not happening. Connor McDavid's not been as electric, although I will say last night against Tampa was one of his better games in recent memory. And Leon Draisaitl's an absolute hoss. Like, he's the MVP this year. But outside of that, they just can't get anything going. And it's mind-boggling that after a summer where you go and say, okay, we went from McLeod to Henrique. That should at worst be a lateral kind of move. You go from Foegele to Arvidsson. Whoever the hell this Victor Arvidsson, it's not the Victor Arvidsson we watched play for LA the last few years, but that was supposed to be an upgrade on Warren Foegele. Never mind a lateral move. Never mind the fact that it's been a significant downgrade. You look at all these guys on the roster and it's the same old. If Connor and Leon aren't carrying the team, there's nothing going on offensively. And then when Connor McDavid's not on his supernova level, which is basically been a stretch now that we've been looking at for 6 weeks where he hasn't looked like peak takeover a game Connor McDavid, we're sitting here watching an offense that can't carry a team, a blue line that, struggles to get the puck to the offense. Maybe that's part of the issue, but a blue line that just bleeds poor decisions and poor turnovers, and a goalie who can't steal a game right now either. And certainly, remember when they went on that 16-game heater, Liam, and it was 3-1 win, 2-1 win, 4-2 win, and it was all these low-scoring wins, and it's like, man, this is how a Stanley Cup contender operates. They are just miles away from that in every single facet of the game, and the goaltending stinks, and the defense stinks. At least that's mildly predictable. But where the hell is the elite offense we're used to watching?
Yeah, and you mentioned there too, it's, what was it, 4 games they've been shut out, and you think back to earlier in the season, they get the really late goal against Dallas, and the same against Columbus too, so you could have even pushed it to 6 if they didn't show up in the last minute of those games, and I'm sure there's another one out there as well. It's very alarming. What makes it more alarming is that, like, Jeff Skinner can't seem to get any ice time. And I went back and looked yesterday since the Penguins game, which was, I think, late January, whatever it was. He had only been on the ice for 2 goals against, and they both came against Philly the other day. He had been on the ice for 6 goals for. So for me, a guy that's playing about 10 minutes a night, that's a really good player that you want to be having in your lineup when your team's struggling to score. And Coombs said on the show yesterday, maybe it's because they wanted like less risky plays, and that's why they took out him and Klingberg and brought in Yaremchuk and Stetcher to like less risk, I guess you could say. But I think they maybe need to be a bit more riskier on the offense if it isn't working out for them too. It's such a bad time for them at the moment. I don't think this is obviously their true identity. Like they're gonna find themselves again. Like they're still in a pretty good spot, and like you don't want to give up wins, but they're able to do it still. I guess you could say, which is good. So I don't know. I obviously worry, and I would like to see a bit more consistency in the lines. Like for me, Yaremchuk probably doesn't need to be on the third line as often as he is, and like if Kapanen's making those plays, he's got to be out of the lineup. And Arvidsson, like you said, like where has that guy been all season? It is alarming, but they're gonna find their game back sooner rather than later. I don't know when though. Hopefully tomorrow.
You want some more alarming stats?
No.
Again, I don't want this to turn into like criticizing Connor McDavid or whatever, but Liam, do you want to take a guess on when the last time Connor McDavid was on the ice for a 5-on-5 goal for?
Oh boy. Toronto.
Wow. Well, great work. That is tremendous guessing from you. But yeah, it's been Tampa, Washington, Philly, Colorado, Chicago, St. Louis, and then Toronto. It's been 6 games since Connor McDavid's been on the ice for a 5-on-5 goal for. And in those games, they've been out of those 6, they've been outshot in 4 of those 6. They've been outshot when Connor McDavid's on the ice at 5-on-5. And listen, like, and this maybe goes back to the Bouchard thing. Like the expectations on these guys are higher. And who am I to sit here and dump on a generational player in Connor McDavid for how he's playing as of late? And who knows what he's going through, all of that stuff. But like, the Oilers need their best players to be their best to win hockey games because the depth ain't doing it right now. And when Bouchard's playing the way he is and turning over pucks, and people sit there in my Twitter mentions and be like, why won't you talk about Brett Kulak's turnovers? Why won't you talk about John Klingberg's turnovers? Because they're not the top pairing defenseman who is part of the engine that drives this team. And if you're going to sit here and be like, why are you ripping on I'm not ripping on Connor McDavid. Why are you pointing this out about Connor McDavid? Point out everything in the bottom 6. Hey, we've spent a lot of time talking about the lackluster efforts from the bottom 6. Also, Connor McDavid's Connor McDavid. Like, the idea that the Oilers need him to be Connor McDavid to win hockey games is not far-fetched. So, anyways, I'll park this conversation. Shout out to our friends at Tim Hortons. Roll Up to Win is back. Let's get out to our first of 2 guests for today. Louie DeBrusk's appearances are brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian-owned and operated since 1972, with more than 85 locations across the country through Charm and their sister brands. You can get a custom ring built and delivered in less than 4 weeks with the Charm Masterpiece program. It all comes with their unbeatable pricing policy. Charm Diamond Centers came through for me. They came through for Liam. When it's time for you to ask that big question in your life, you know you can bank on Charm Diamond Centers to get you the ring that you need. For more information, go to Charm Diamond Centers, charmdiamondcenters.com. Always a pleasure to welcome in our friend Loue DeBrusk, Sportsnet analyst. Louie, there's somewhere I want to start before we get into the hockey. You posted a photo of yourself golfing Monday in Tampa Bay with 2 gloves on. Are you always a 2 gloves guy? I need to get to the bottom of this. It's been driving me nuts.
You know what? No, I'm not always a 2 gloves guy. The only time I wear 2 gloves, and I will tell you guys this, and you'll probably be able to relate to this living in Edmonton, but I've golfed a lot of tournaments over the years, charity tournaments in the summertime, and the weather in Edmonton isn't always, let's say, consistent. So I always have rain gear, and I always have rain gloves in my bag. And when it rains, I can't golf if I can't grip the club, you know, and I just... For me, I just feel like that club's going to slip out of my hand. So those were rain gloves. It was hard to tell in the photograph, but it really dumped on us that day, the other day in Florida. The one day that Jack and I decided, and golfing with my old buddy and old partner, Dave Randorf, who set it up at Copperhead, just so thank you very much to him. We got 12 holes in. We decided to grit it out, but we were waterlogged by the time we got out of there. But a beautiful course, a big PGA tournament coming up there in the next couple of weeks. And you know what? It was good to be out in the golf course for the first time since summer for me. But we golfed in the rain. We toughed it out, but because it was such a beautiful track, we had prep. But those 2 gloves you saw were rain gloves, and they are game changers, boys. If anybody doesn't know about rain gloves, if you're going to golf in the rain in a tournament, you have to golf, or you've committed to a golf outing, get yourself some rain gloves. It is a game changer. Makes a big difference. But no, I'm not a 2 glove guy. I'm a 1 glove guy.
Game feeling all right though? I know Jack was complimenting you a little bit.
You know what? Honestly, I thought it's funny because the expectation, I know I just listened to you guys coming in before we came on. I know expectation's a big word that we use all the time. When you don't golf in a long time, I feel your expectations are really low. and you swing smoother. And that's what I did. And I seem to play better when I do that. I don't know why I don't continually do that in the summertime. I always go for a little bit more, but maybe I should start taking that approach of swinging smoother and my expectations a lot down, and you'll golf better. But I actually hit the ball pretty well, I will admit.
I would much rather be talking about golf than the Edmonton Oilers right now, but alas, that is what
Yeah.
people tune in for, is the Oilers talk. So, I mean, you heard me a little bit before you came on, but like, the goaltending hasn't been great. The blue line hasn't been great. The offense isn't carrying them the way it used to in past years. What's the most disappointing part about this stretch for the Oilers for you?
I think for me, and especially in the last 3 games since the break, I would say the way they've checked out. You know, there's this team, the one thing that we've always talked about is even if they're behind the game, they're one of the best chasing teams in the National Hockey League. They can get after you. They can dominate play. They can spend time in the offensive zone. Just hasn't happened. I mean, when there's been a lead extended to 2 or 3 goals, it seems like the game's over. They're just checked out. And we haven't seen that all year, to be honest with you. This is kind of a new thing. So that's the one thing that stands out to me. And I think it's just, you know, trust me, we are brainstorming every single day trying to go, okay, what's going on with these guys and what's in their minds? Just had a 2-week break. You know, what's the excuse of coming back? Yeah, you're a little rusty, but you just still have more energy. I really believe, and we had a little round table when we got into Fort Lauderdale last night. We all sat around and tried to, you know, come up with the solutions for everything and put GM caps on and all that, which we do on a regular basis. And we overanalyze everything. But, you know, for me, I really come to the conclusion that this team understands what's coming up here for them. They're all out of sync right now. For me, I think that they're the most disconnected they've been all year long. And that includes the first 3 games of the year. Because in the first 3 games of the year where they lost, they actually dominated play. I mean, dominated play at times. They got goalied a couple times, but there were stretches of 15, 20 minutes where it was no question who the best team on the ice was, and they were dictating the play, and they just couldn't put the puck in the net. And that's been a problem all year long. That has not been solved. I know I heard a little bit about you talking about depth scoring. I mean, once again, I'm getting a graphic built for the next game, and I hate doing this, by the way. This is not the kind of graphic we want to talk about, but there is nobody right now firing on all cylinders except for Leon Draisaitl. Leon Draisaitl is the one guy, and the other two players that have put some pucks in the net and are contributing are Jeff Skinner and Corey Perry. Everyone else right now has gone cold at the wrong time. Maybe the right time, though, to work this out before the last 20, 15 games of the season, and historically a team that really plays well into the playoffs. So, and that's getting back to what my original point was going to be. I think this team understands. They went to a Stanley Cup final. They've been to a conference final. They've been in the playoffs 5 years in a row. This is a team that knows what's at task and what's coming up. Before the break, they were the 3rd best team in the NHL. This is a team still vying for the Pacific Division. So it's not, you know, break glass, emergency, pull the handle yet. I think this team just is building themselves up, getting themselves prepared for a grueling run down the stretch and into the playoffs, because that's what it is. It is literally, once you get into that game mode and you start playing down into the playoffs, and the puck drops, it's just the emotional roller coaster that is extreme. And I think they're just mentally and physically right now in a state where they're working themselves up, trying to prepare themselves for that run. We all look at it and go, you know, what's going on here? It's the way they're losing. But that's to me, what I think is mentally happening with them. But I also think because of the way they played the game before the break, chasing the game, taxing their top players, and you're running and gunning, you're forcing your pressing. It's a lot easier to sit back and defend a lead than it is to chase the game when you're behind. This team has been behind way too much in the last month and a half, and it's taxed the big guys, and you can see it. I see players that typically have a reservoir that never empties, looks like it's on empty right now, and that's a concern. But there's still time to make it up.
There obviously a couple of lineup changes yesterday against Tampa Bay, and I think the one that had the fan base pretty confused was Jeff Skinner going up and not being in the lineup again. Like, I think he should probably get himself back in tomorrow against Florida, but what did you make of that decision to sit him out?
You know, I think they want to send messages to people, and then they want to give them the chance to get back in there. Right now, they want to see Matt Savoy, and I think Matt Savoy is kind of like Jeff Skinner, right? But can Matt Savoy skate a little bit better, make different? I think Matt Savoy's been good, by the way. I think the plays that he's made have been extremely good. and unfortunately have gone overlooked because of what's happened. Imagine being your first 3 games with a team coming up and playing these 3 games. You know what I mean? Like, outscored 17-7, not really being in any game after the first period. The second periods have been atrocious. I know he's just a young guy and he's going through the motions and he's going to just play and he's excited to be here, but he's got to be thinking to himself, am I the reason? Like, you come up and you get 3 games in the league and it's like, oh my God, these are my first 3 games on supposedly one of the best teams in the league. But I like what I've seen from him. I know it's a real small sample size. He's playing with an elite player, one of the best ever in Leon Draisaitl, but he seems to know where to go to receive the puck. Now, it hasn't gone in for him. He found the one really good chance last night. Bobbling puck. The puck was up on edge bouncing. But I like the fact that he was there. You know, that to me is a skill you can't teach. It's really hard to teach that, how to get to the spot on time. And he has that, but he also has confidence with the puck on his stick. Doesn't seem to get himself in bad positions for an undersized player. He's smart, he's quick, he gets there and makes the play. He knows where he wants to go with the puck before he gets it, which is critical when you're in the National Hockey League level. You have to know where you want to go with that puck. And so I would tell you that I actually really like what's happened. Now, how long are they going to go with this? How long are they going to run with this? I'm not sure. But for me, Jeff Skinner's kind of that guy too. Is it time for him to get an opportunity where you throw him up there and give him a chance for a while? Listen, I think that the game for me with Jeff Skinner, he's not a north and south guy. This team needs speed. They don't need players that are going to slow the play down. He seems to slow things down with wanting to go east and west. It's the way he's played his entire career. There's no question around the net in the offensive zone. He's dynamic. He's done it his entire career. There was a play the other night where he had a clear-cut breakaway, and he was tracked down by a very fast player in Frank. But, I mean, to me, that could have been 2-0 in that game versus Washington. That could have been where he comes down, he buries that, and he got tracked down relatively easy. Now, people are going to say it's the end of the shift. It's just he hasn't shown that speed that they're so lacking with the absence of Holloway, with the absence of McLeod, even Warren Fogle, who played a fast, hard game. They need speed, and for me, in the last 3 games, they've looked like the slower team, in my opinion. Not just slow skating, but slow in their play. Making passes, making decisions, anticipation, hesitating at the wrong times. And that to me is a team that just seems out of sync. When they play in sync, they play faster, they look faster, and they're a much harder team to play against. But listen, we've talked about Jeff Skinner for a long time. Obviously, the fact that he's in and out of the lineup, there's something they obviously don't like what they're seeing in his game. There's certain things you do like, and that's the offense, because he's one of the couple guys that actually is putting the puck in the net right now. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if he's back in the lineup tomorrow night. But is Jeff Skinner the answer right now? I'm not putting all that pressure on him. He's more of a support guy on this team. And if he gets in there, good for him. And I'm sure he'll go and work and potentially give him some offense. But they obviously are looking at some different things, and there's a reason why he keeps being one of the ones out of the lineup. And I would suggest that it's probably, for me, just the speed aspect of it and up and down the ice. He's a guy that needs someone to kind of get him the puck, and he needs to play with better players. I've said that all along. If you're going to play him with the top players, because that's where he's played his whole career.
And again, like the offense just isn't going right now. So again, I like Vasily Podkolzin, and I understand why the coaching staff likes Vasily Podkolzin, and he seems to make a lot of good decisions. But like, remember that I think it was against Pittsburgh, however long ago the game against Pittsburgh was. He walked into the offensive zone and zipped a wrist shot from right in between the circles, picked a corner, scored. Louie, I swear we haven't seen him shoot the puck since then. It's almost like he did that and was like, you know what, I kind of want to end on that one. But like, they got to put someone who can shoot with Draisaitl, and that's why. Again, we talked 2 weeks ago, I think it was, where it was like, hey, find a 30-goal scorer for Leon Draisaitl. Why not just see if Jeff Skinner can be that guy? Put him and Savoy there, and sure, maybe they won't be great defensively, but with the way Draisaitl's like playing right now and the way he's taking over games, I just want to put 2 offensive players on his wing and see if we can just get some offense going.
I don't disagree with you. I think Podkolzin is doing everything except for putting the puck in the net on that line. I think that but unfortunately, that's the most important thing. He keeps the play alive. He wins battles. He makes good little passes. He gets himself to the front of the net. He takes up space. He's good defensively. He's back deep in the zone, making plays out of the zone. He does all those good things. But that puck just isn't going in the net for him. And he has really slow twitch. He's a slow twitch player at times. And that's the one thing he's going to have to change in his career, is he's going to have to get quicker. And you can, though. It's the one thing you can work on. I mean, all those other intangibles are there. And like you said, it's about thinking about shot before the chance even comes. I'll give you a perfect example. Another player that hasn't scored, well, he scored one goal in an eternity, it seems, and that's Matthias Janmark. Matthias Janmark, for me, I mean, he skates like the wind. He buzzes on the forecheck. He gets grade A chances every once in a while because of that energy and that compete. I mean, listen, he's a player you want to use in a lot of different situations. But again, he's not putting the puck in the net. That puck popped out to him last night. It should have been off of his stick, and he should have been ready for that puck and thinking shot as soon as it comes to him. Goal scorers, there's no way they stop that puck in the slot. It's on the net. You don't let Vasilevsky get set. He hesitated, and he flicked the wrist or blocker side, and it was fended off. Made a save. And you're sitting there going, that's a guy right there that hasn't scored many goals this year. He hasn't put the puck in the net. That's a confidence thing. I'm telling you, if that's Draisaitl, it's already in the net because he's ready for that puck in the slot. Now, that's an elite goal scorer. I'm comparing him to a going to be 4-time 50 goal scorer. But all I'm saying is I know people give me heck for saying shot mentality all the time, but when I'm talking shot mentality, I'm not talking once you get the puck. Sure, have a shot mentality on a 2-on-1, great. But what I'm more talking about is be ready for when that puck comes to you. So if you want, your first option is to take the shot. Instead of getting it, dusting it off and going, where am I going now with this? What am I doing? Again, good teams, when they're given opportunities, it's a quick strike. It's just automatic in their brain, this is going to the net. And I think Edmonton has to get that way a little bit because they're around it. But I said last night on the telecast, I said, I don't know if Vasilevsky had to make one really good save. Do you remember him making a great save? I certainly remember Skinner making a bunch, but early and late he made a whole bunch. I don't know. I don't remember the best save that Vasilevsky made. That's all I'm saying. Case in point, I don't think they picked him as a star in a 4-1 game.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at the shot column too.
He didn't have to work that hard.
No, the Oilers had 4 shot attempts from high danger areas last night, according to Natural Stat Trick.
There you go. There you go. Yep.
That's ridiculous.
Yep. So my eye test was correct then. Thank you. You backed up my eye test. I'm an old school eye test guy, but
yeah.
So here's the thing. Listen, we can sit here and pick this apart. I think this team obviously knows. I saw the guys after the game. The frustration is there. There's no question. This team has always been good, and when it gets to a point like this and it boils over, you saw Draisaitl take a penalty out of frustration. McDavid right now, he looks very frustrated. He's fatigued. He's frustrated. You can tell he's not playing the way we normally see Connor play. And I think that usually, though, this team has, in the last 5 years especially, been able to reel in. Take a couple days, take a break, relax, have a day off today, which they do here in Fort Lauderdale, and then come to play tomorrow against a team that ended your season and ended your dreams last year, winning the Stanley Cup in Game 7. If you can't get motivated for that game, then we're going to have a different conversation. Because I just think that, listen, every team goes through this. The Winnipeg Jets went through it. They had a little bit of a low spell. They popped back up. The season goes like this. It's never straight like this, and it's never up or usually never straight down. I've been on a couple of teams like that. But, I think they're just in a low spot right now. I think everybody's kind of holding their breath, waiting to see what they're going to do at the trade deadline. But, I don't think that people should be – it's tough to make deals in this league right now. I do think they have to shuffle things up. I do think they have to try and mix up this chemistry a little bit here and just see if they can find some guys that take fire when they come in. It doesn't hurt to try. I don't want to sell the future right now, though, to be honest with you guys. I don't think this is the year to do it. I truly don't. And I know people don't want to hear that, but I don't think this is the year to do it. Right now, you're making changes that can help you right now, but can also help you for the next couple of years. And that is the key ingredient for me, is that you're building to keep this window open for multiple years to have a chance to win a Stanley Cup. And they're right in it right now. So yes, if it's a deal that you look at, like an Ekholm deal, that was a great deal. That's a deal where you're getting a guy coming on board. He's going to help you for years. But if this is just a rental that you got to sell the future for, and I don't think that's the time to do it right now. I don't think they're there. I really don't.
Louie, we'll talk more about the deadline with you next week. Thank you for joining us from the road. Before we let you go, where are we at on severance?
Yeah, I'll tell you. It got good. Okay, you guys are right. I gave it its time. I gave it its due, and it's starting to come around. But I'll tell you this. I've never watched a show in my life where I sit around and I think about the show after I've watched it, where I'm, sitting there and all of a sudden it'll pop in my head and go, what did he mean when he said that? Or what was he? It's still a little confusing and it throws you for loops here and there. And it kind of just drags you into it slowly but methodically. So it's an interesting show. Let's just say that it gets you to think, it gets you to kind of question a lot of stuff. And I'm excited to see where it's going to go. I still have a few episodes built up here that I haven't watched. So it got definitely better in the second season, I thought.
Well,
Yeah,
get
we're
ready.
cranking up a little bit right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's a strange one, right? It's just you're seeing a lot of shows like that now that it makes you think, and it's kind of a little different look on things. And interesting. Interesting.
All right, Louie, thanks for doing this. We'll chat again next week.
All right, guys, take care.
See ya.
There you go. Louie DeBrusk for Charm Diamond Centers. Liam, fast moving show today. This show is not like Severance. We got to keep going. Star Mechanical Guest Line, Edmonton's #1 plumbing and heating company. You can find out more by visiting them online at starmechanical.ca. Whether it's residential, commercial, 24/7 emergency service, they do it all. They do it well at Star Mechanical. As we bring in our boy, Daily Faceoff insider, Frank Seravalli. Frank, are you on the Severance train?
I'm not. Haven't had really much time for shows at all, so I need a new one.
You got Apple TV, Frank. Also, just you might be on the wrong mic, so we'll get you to sort that out really, really quick. But you got to get Apple TV. All the good shows are on Apple TV, and that's a free ad for our friends at Apple. But Frank, we just kind of broke down.
I'm gonna have to dip out because that's the only way I could change my mic.
Okay, well then we'll have Frank back, and we'll have Frank back in a couple of seconds. Frank has a new interview dropping with Oilers GM Stan Bowman. It's actually out now, so as soon as this show's done, you can go over to the Daily Faceoff YouTube, and Frank's full sit-down with Stan Bowman is there. Talked a lot about Stuart Skinner and the goaltending, talked about Evan Bouchard. We're actually going to play that for you as a bit of a teaser before we wrap up today's show as well. But a really, really interesting conversation with Stan Bowman that he taped last Friday, and I guess what's interesting about it, Liam, is that since they taped it, boy, things haven't been going well for the Edmonton Oilers. So, Frank, let's just maybe start there. This losing streak for the Oil, 4 games. They've been flatter than flat in 3 games since coming back from the break. And I know you taped your conversation with Bowman before this break, or before these 3 games. Do you think there's a world where the results on the ice for the Oilers over this next little week are going to change how they view the deadline and how they approach things?
I would be surprised. I mean, if you're talking about the goaltending market specifically, I have a hard time seeing it. For one, I just don't believe there's a true difference maker out there. And 2, let's say you find one that you think can supplant Stuart Skinner and give you what you need to feel comfortable if you're Stan Bowman laying your head on the pillow at night. Okay, how are you going to fit him in your cap? Because we've talked about this for weeks now on this show about the idea of the Oilers potentially only having one move in them. And you just heard Louie DeBrusk. He thinks this isn't even the year. I think it has to be one of the years that you make a push because there's only so many that you're going to have with McDavid and Draisaitl under these contracts. And this is the last one. So, look, there's a lot to digest from our conversation, but if you're letting a 5-game run in time dictate for you what a full 60-game sample size looks like and how you shape your philosophy, I don't know that makes a whole lot of sense either.
So again, maybe we'll get into some of the other decisions, goaltending, defenseman, forward, everything they need to or could look to accomplish. But everything does start with the Evander Kane question, Frank. And am I insane for thinking that it's crazy they don't have an answer to this yet? Like, it's February 26th. We should have a pretty clear timeline on whether or not he's back, no?
Yeah, I think you are crazy a little bit in that sense because it's fluid. He's already begun skating. And look, I think when you boil it down, it all comes down to the individual. It's a doctor and medical decision, yes, to be cleared. But what happens if 1 month from now, let's just operate under the hypothetical that Evander Kane, they get a ruling on March 1st that says, yeah, you know what, his timeline's probably 5 weeks, okay? Which is like right on the edge of the playoffs. And they go out and spend the money. And then 1 month from now, on March 27th, Evander Kane wakes up and he says, you know what? I feel like $5 million today, and I'm going to play. I want to play. I'm ready to play. What do? You can't do anything. There's nothing you can do. If he's physically able to play and he gets an opinion, it doesn't even have to be from the Oilers doctor. It could be from a neutral or a second opinion doctor that he is cleared to play. The Oilers, there's no choice in the matter. There's no like, hey, well, maybe we'll activate you. It's according to the CBA, must be activated. And so if you spent his money, there's no recourse for you. You have to now shed whatever you spent off your books, and you're past the trade deadline. So every team in the league is now going, what can we extract from the Edmonton Oilers to trade off of their roster? They're going to have to be attaching picks, and you're moving not prospects, players from your team to then be cap compliant. So as I walk you through the hypothetical, it's not it. Even if you get an answer from doctors on March 1st, which is what Stan Bowman said is kind of a target date that they'd like to hear one. How do you feel about the idea of going out and spending that, knowing you could be up the creek without a paddle in a month? And then what? I still think, given everything that I just laid out, and could be wrong, maybe the doctors say, hey, you know what, this is not healing appropriately or something. Like you don't know. I think it's more likely than not that the Oilers don't have that money to spend.
But okay, but then how come, and people are pointing it out in the chat, like Kucherov and Stone were ready for game one of the playoffs because they presumably played ball. Like, you're telling me Mark Stone truly wasn't ready until right at that moment for puck drop in game one? Like, is the conversation not with a doctor about what's his recovery? Is it not more with Evander Kane going, are you going to play ball or no?
Here's the difference. You're not having this conversation with Mark Stone, and you're not having this conversation with Nikita Kucherov. You're having it with an NHL wild card on the best of days in Evander Kane.
Yeah. Do you know what, though? Like, they might even need
How many
him back.
teams has he played ball with? Before you chime in, Liam, how many teams has he actually played ball with?
None. That's why he's Evander Kane. And that's what makes this so maddening, because it's like the one time the Oilers are in a spot to do what Vegas does and do what Tampa does and do what other teams do, they're doing it. They have to do it with Evander Kane, who, you're right, could wake up and be like, I'm ready to go. And they'd be like, okay, 2 weeks in Bakersfield to get your conditioning up. And he has to agree to it. He could say, no, I'm not doing that. I'm playing. Like,
not only that, but the league has to approve an LTIR stint in Bakersfield. Like, there's a million layers to this, and it's why I always say, be careful who you get into bed with.
Yeah.
I think they might need him. Like, they kind of need his juice and his physicality, and like, as much as like everyone hates the cliche of like, well, he's like a trade deadline ad. It's like, I think he'd be more than a welcome addition, to be honest. But my question with that, Frank, is like, so hypothetically he gets activated and they can't spend his money. Would there then be maybe a couple of Oilers that creep onto your trade targets board that could become options to shed a bit of money to, like, hypothetically say it's Arvidsson, $4 million, he has no trade protection. Then you can maybe go out and get a couple of players from that if you're able to move on from him. Kind of like what they did with Puljujarvi, I guess, a couple of years ago.
Okay, so I know you're shading your question by, like, you have some names in mind. It's not going to be
Arvidsson's a
Jeff
big
Skinner.
one.
So
Arvidsson,
I would
yeah.
imagine Arvidsson's a possibility if you're looking for a way to create space. So Arvidsson,
Klingberg.
I doubt it's going to be Skinner because he's got the full no trade, and I doubt. First off, why would he waive this close to the playoffs? And second, I know not to like wade into yesterday's conversation again, but like, we understand that he did have a very recent chunk in time before Four Nations where he actually looked pretty productive. The point is the options are limited. Like, we're not dealing with an incredibly long list. Like, Who else is there to move?
Adam Henrique's the only other forward who has some money with no trade protection. I think he's $3 million, right?
And it just kind of speaks to the trouble that the Oilers got themselves in last summer.
Yeah, it does. Klingberg's the other name. That experiment. It was only 7 games, Frank, but I'm good. If he's playing top 4 for you, night 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, whether you're playing the LA Kings or the Colorado Avalanche or whoever, you are in trouble if John Klingberg's in your top 4.
Look, I understand Stan Bowman's assertion that it's going to take us 5 to 7 weeks to truly grade and judge. But you're dealing with a player that had a significant period of time where he didn't play, and I wasn't a believer in him before that. And so, yes, the hip is finally fixed. He's feeling better than he ever has been, and more power to him for making his way back. But I don't know that he was ever going to be the solution anyway. And beyond that, the contract and the way that it was structured actually kind of puts the Oilers in not a pickle, but it's not a great spot either, because there's still some hangover if you end up burying that deal in the minors. The way that it works with the signing bonus and everything else, they stopped accruing cap space now because of this deal. And I guess if you had kind of kept it at league min or just drew a hard line in the sand, maybe you don't get him. Maybe he goes somewhere else. But what happens if that little accrued space that we're talking about that would have piled up between the date you signed him and deadline day, if you really are dollars in, dollars out, and you're able to find another however many, less than $1 million or whatever it might be, you never know how much that might have helped you. So I think that's another interesting wrinkle to it, is that they obviously pushed really hard to get him, but it does create some additional headaches and or complications if things don't work.
I always kind of say that, again, because Liam, myself, everyone who's watching the show in the YouTube and listening to the show, we're so into the day-to-day of this team that sometimes we get too caught up in it and we lose the bigger picture. And it is, I'll be honest, it's a full-on panic right now. Our chat is a mess. I'm angry watching this team play.
But I'm glad that you said that, because I wanted to actually touch on that, and I was going to go there organically, whether you asked me or not, which is, honestly, this is a good team, a team that's hit a rut, that I do think are fair questions to ask about, yes, some of the roster construction and some of the decisions made, and yes, their penchant at times to take their foot off the gas. But this team, from their kind of late October malaise on, was one of the very best teams in the league, and it's not easy over an 82 game stretch to do that night in and night out. Are there issues? Yes. Are they perfect? No. But does this team have an authentic chance to win the Stanley Cup this year? The answer to that is yes.
Yeah, I agree with you. And someone commented earlier, they're not going to make the playoffs. They're obviously going to make the playoffs. It's a matter of if they win the division or not.
Have you seen the Vancouver Canucks?
Now that's a mess.
But what's interesting though, and I don't know that it's been talked about enough, and I guess because of Four Nations, we kind of gloss over it. But heading into last night's game, well, actually, no, I think including last night's game, Connor McDavid has 19 points in his last 18 games, 1.06 points per game. His career average is 1.51. We could talk about all these other things, and we could talk about Skinner, and we could talk about the defense, and do they need more team speed, and blah, 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 blah. But your star players still need to be your absolute star players. And again, I want to be clear before anyone tries to radio me. I am not saying any of this is on Connor McDavid's shoulders at all. He's been, whenever things go sideways, that's the first thing people point to is 97 and 29. That's not what I'm saying. But we had a very fair and frank conversation before Four Nations, and I said, based on the level of play and the standard that these guys have set, who has had a more disappointing season, Matthews or McDavid? And you said fair question, and something that we could debate. He's got to find a way to turn it on.
And since since the suspension too, I think Zach wrote about it on Oilersnation yesterday. He has been on the ice for 12 goals against and only 4, which is like something around there. Anyways, like the standard has to be way higher. Like Draisaitl is playing unreal right now. He has goals in 6 straight games. I think he has 7. And you also look on the blue line, like Bouchard and Ekholm haven't been this like elite pairing either. And obviously we can all look at the goaltending, but to me that doesn't even matter when like the players in front of him are playing so poorly. Like it really does just feel like a matter of time before they flip it. And like tomorrow night against Florida, you're going into a barn like Louie DeBrusk just said to us, like where you lost. All your dreams were just disappeared in a moment last season. And Matthew Tkachuk also probably won't play the game. Like, it's a really good opportunity for them to come out and showcase, like, hey, like those 3 games, 4 games, if you want to read Colorado, aren't who we are. That this is the Edmonton Oilers.
Make a statement. And that I said the McDavid thing, not to place blame, but also really as a point of optimism that because his career average is X and because there's plenty of runway left in the season. And because we saw flashes at 4 Nations, I mean, like Tyler and I looked at each other at one point in the Bell Center press box. He's like, man, I haven't seen that kind of burst out of him in months. It's there. How they unlock it again, whatever has been keeping that back. Maybe he's just saving it for playoffs. I don't know. I can't get inside his head, but I'd say that's a reason for optimism, not pessimism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, hey, if there are guys who are sitting there going, we're feeling it, it's the dog days of the season. In McDavid's case, maybe it's like, I'm saving it for the playoffs. I would say the 60-game mark, which is at the end of this road trip, probably a pretty decent time to turn on the Jets. Frank, appreciate you sticking around a little bit longer. Everyone can go listen to his interview with Stan Bowman right after this show. Thanks for popping on.
See you guys.
See you, Frank.
There you go. Frank will also be a part, obviously, of our deadline coverage next week. We're going live on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. I'll be hosting. Be joined by all of our Daily Faceoff friends as well. Let's continue along. Aaron, do we have the Bowman clip on Bouchard? Can we play that? Yes?
Yes, we do. We will play it.
Okay, give it a run.
Evan Bouchard has had an interesting season. He's been, I think, pretty vocally criticized at times in the media. But speaking of what you were just touching on, he also does so many things that so few players in this league can do. How do you size up his season and what do you see moving forward for him?
Yeah, Bouch does get a lot of criticism. I think, unfairly so. He's a great player. He really is a big part of our team. He's very effective. And I think sometimes when, for whatever reason, certain players, they when everyone makes mistakes, but sometimes if your mistakes get spotlighted for whatever reason, then maybe there's more attention given to it. And but he's played well. Like he's very good at complimenting our best players. So that's an important role. Like when you've got really creative offensive players who are forwards, you need to have somebody that can help them score.
Is that a skill in and of itself? Like I was just thinking about this during 4 Nations. Just because you put great players with great players doesn't necessarily mean you're going to see results.
Right. It is. I think it's an overlooked thing. So I think Bouch is really good at that.
There you go. Stan Bowman on Evan Bouchard. Liam, let me ask you a Sherwood Ford Giant question brought to you by Nation Valet Service. Call the dealership. You only have 2 more days left to do this, 3 more days left to do this. Get entered into a draw to win your way into the Nation vacation by using the Nation Valet Service. They drive to you, pick up your vehicle, drive the vehicle back to the dealership, do the routine maintenance, drive it back to your house. It is unbelievable. And again, say it's Nation Valet Service, you get entered into a draw to come with us on the Nation vacation. What does a successful final 24 games of the season look like for Evan Bouchard? We're being positive.
What a question. Final 24 games. Do you know what, So I went and looked, and this was on StatMuse. Evan Bouchard has 100 giveaways so far this season. It seems like giveaways are up because he is second in the league behind Mackenzie Weegar, who has 103. Last season, Bouchard had 83 turnovers. So giveaways, they're calling him on it. So obviously a drastic change in no one in the league at 100. So I think for me, it's just settle. Just be calm and don't make yourself the headline in a negative way. And I think everyone can live with mistakes every now and then, but it can't be every night. Like, we can't just sit here and be like, well, there's another one, there's another one, there's another one. Yesterday he had 5 turnovers. So for me, just be more composed, like limit your errors. And he's still contributing offensively. He had a point last night in the only goal that the Oilers had in the game. So just find the composure.
Yeah, and that's where I was going to go to, is just kind of like simplify and stick to what you do best, right? His ability, and it's maybe a curse and a blessing sometimes because the snowball's rolling down a hill and he's obviously fighting it, but like his greatest gift is his patience, the way he can walk the blue line, coming out of the offensive zone, the way he can make a forechecker miss, his short little passes even, where he can draw a guy to him, then dish it to his partner, and boom, the Oilers are going the other way. Like, he's so good at that stuff, but if it's such a fine line, and like he needs to be perfect and precise with it, or else you see the turnovers that we're seeing here. So you want him to flush it. You want him to find another gear here. And I think he will. So again, getting pucks through and getting clean exits out. If he does those two things, the complaints are going to go away. The only thing that's going to frustrate me is, like, we've gotten to the Darnell Nurse point of this narrative where, like, no matter how much good he does, the mouth breathers and the morons online are never going to be happy with him again. And I think that's truly disappointing, because I think he really is a special, special talent. And the second you trade or let go of an Evan Bouchard, you spend a decade trying to find your next Evan Bouchard. Like, they don't grow on trees. So it's disappointing to see the way this fan base has turned on him, as much as I am disappointed in how he's played. And I think he needs to be better for this team to succeed. He has it in him. We know he does. And it's similar to Skinner. Like, Skinner played so well for such long stretches last year. Evan Bouchard was one of the best defensemen in the NHL last year and has been the best playoff performing defenseman over the last 2 seasons. It's in there for both of these guys. And that's why my narrative that I'm pushing is you need to get a top 4 defenseman. Put someone next to Darnell Nurse who can elevate Darnell Nurse so he's not playing with Kulak on his offside and then Klingberg and then Stetcher. Get a good consistent pairing for Darnell Nurse. Okay, that takes some of the work and some of the minutes away from Evan Bouchard and Mattias Ekholm. It puts Kulak on the third pair with a consistent partner in Ty Emberson. Everything comes together if you get a legit top 4 defenseman. And I get it. People are frustrated with Bouch, and I'm frustrated too. You don't think I watch the games sitting at home? I watch the same TV everyone else does, and I sit there and roll my eyes when Bouchard turns it over and go, Jesus Christ, man, figure it out. But I also can keep the bigger picture and go, this guy does stuff that few defensemen can do.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's hard to, like, I just don't remember him being like this last season, where it felt like
he wasn't.
Yeah, he wasn't, and it's tough. It's tough on for him. I agree. They gotta figure out the pairings, and that's why Jamie Alexiak just seems like such a good piece. And I know he's not a right shot, but he's definitely a top 4 caliber defenseman. And hey, maybe even you go a little crazy and you put him with Bouchard, and then Ekholm and Nurse, for example, are your top pairing, and they can kind of take on the harder minutes and let Bouchard settle back a little bit. Keeping, like, last night he played 20 minutes, and a lot of, like, they only had 1 power play. The most guy at 5-on-5 for a defenseman was Brett Kulak. Like, I would reduce his minutes a little bit just for this stretch, and, like, it's not to say that, like, he can't earn them back by any means, but, like, he's clearly these 3 games, and everyone too, but, like, he needs to figure it out, and I think just lesser competition might be good for him.
Yeah. Again, a month ago, this was the best team in the NHL when we were looking at the run that they were on. Now, I mean, whatever. We are where we are, and a good 24 games. How many times did we talk over the last few years? Peak at the right time, peak at the right time, peak at the right time. Maybe they're setting themselves up for that. That's where my optimism will come in. Liam, a couple other things we need to get to before we wrap up. For our friends at Safeway, think you know hockey? Play Safeway My NHL Picks weekly for a chance to win big prizes, and it includes, like, a trip for 4 to a 2025 NHL season opener of your choice. A new slate of games opens up every Thursday from now to the end of the regular season. Download the Safeway app. Start playing today for your chance to win. Liam, you play this game.
I do. I was just looking at my picks right now, actually. I'm just loading it in. I did have the Oilers against Philly, so I know I lost that one by a landslide. But let's see here. Loading in. Okay, so I did Detroit, Anaheim on Monday. I won that one. I picked Detroit. I did Winnipeg, San Jose. I won the Winnipeg one. And then I picked Washington to beat Calgary, but they did not help me. And tonight I have Winnipeg to beat Ottawa. So tomorrow I'll do all my picks.
Okay, tomorrow we'll throw them up on the screen for everyone. I'm going to download the app as well, so we'll do a little head-to-head challenge there, Liam. All right, we went really, really long today, so I know there's a couple of things that we're not going to be able to get to for this one, like the rumor mill, but we'll save some of that for tomorrow. We'll get into some really good trade talk tomorrow. It's also a Sherwood Ford Giant Game Day edition of the show, as the Oilers will look to bounce back against the Florida Panthers. All right, Liam. You good? We good? I mean, I could sit here all day and scream at the chat with some of the stuff that's in there, but I'm just not going to do that. I'm going to just mentally reset and come back at this tomorrow.
Yeah, I think tomorrow will be a better day, another day to rest and try not to think about this team. I have a huge virtual golf game tonight, so I'm excited to extend my lead. I've been planning my Masters lunch with the other previous winners, so that's going to be exciting. The Briar gets underway on Friday. Lots of good is coming up, folks.
All right. Again, the show, a presentation of Bet365. Download the app today. Use the promo code NATION, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. That's a wrap for Lehman and I. Today, we are off. We are done, but we'll be back tomorrow because we always come back. Noon Mountain Time on Thursday, Sherwood Ford Giant Game Day edition of the show. Sherwood, Power Sports and Marine Keys to Victory, all that stuff and more. Talk to everybody tomorrow, Noon Mountain. Oil up.